let's go. Oh wait, we need to kick it off. Shit.
We're on. Yeah, well, I already got
God
that.
damn it.
We're clipped. Potty mouth. All right, we'll kick
Every
it off.
time John curses,
officially,
take a drink.
Yeah.
No, this is going to be a really, really short podcast.
I really don't want to waste my Elijah Craig 18-year.
You go through it
Well,
too
that's
fast.
First of all, if you're drinking it, you're not wasting it.
Send prompts, not nudes. I just want to AI some shit.
Good
Well,
point.
touche.
It is Friday night, Friday afternoon for me, but
That is.
Friday evening for you guys. Either way, welcome to the DNAi Podcast. This is officially episode number 5, which is legit. You know, we've done 5 weeks of podcast recording, and we will continue to put these out. Our last episode, if you didn't catch it, was also a bourbon and wine fueled episode, which turned out to be pretty entertaining. And I think we're going to aim to recreate that here tonight. So quick rapid round. I'm drinking the same thing as last time because that's what I have in my house. Bullet Frontier whiskey. John, what do you got?
I am going with St. Cloud, bottle 157 of the Barrel Psyche.
157. That's a good number. I remember that one.
I have no clue.
I've never heard of it.
It seemed
Sounds
relevant. They wrote it on the bottle.
And James, you said Elijah Craig earlier, right?
Well, I've got the Elijah Craig 18-year, and
So this isn't one of your homemade concoctions with infused orange peels and stuff.
No, it's going to be a little bit more mellow of an episode for me.
That would be
Got it, all right.
sacrilege to Hey, I've
And
got
Randy,
this great
I saw you
beer.
with a different bottle that didn't look like wine.
I am drinking scotch this week, an Oban 14. One of my favorites.
Nice. Scotch, I don't know too much about. All I know is the term peaty.
Peaty. This is not a peaty one, but it is smooth.
But it's a scotch nonetheless. All right, well, there you have it. There's our drinks. We're going to kick it off, and we're just going to let this conversation ebb and flow in the most natural, organic way possible. We were just talking about ChatGPT. OpenAI rolled out Tasks, which is a glorified alarm clock feature. John, James, and Randy have all been using it. I haven't touched it yet. Any initial thoughts and feedback?
Well,
It works 60% of the time, every time.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll go first because I can make mine really quick. I've tried everything. It just keeps I've not gotten it to work yet. So
What does it tell you? It like just does nothing, or do you get an error? Or
yeah, it tells me the task failed
What's your task, James?
every time. Oh, I've tried a whole bunch of things. I've tried just say hi to me in 15 minutes, and I've done give me a news update or right. Like I've done a whole bunch of different prompts, but they all seem to fail.
well,
I've
I
got
don't
it giving me AI news stories on the hour, and it seems to work. It was failing a lot the first day, and then I'm getting to consistency. I'm just getting the same stories, but then it's kind of like a slow moving news feed. So if I go back through my history, it's like something comes in, and the next time it does it, that's in the middle, and the next time it does it, that's at the end. But it's interesting. Give me a couple things to think about.
And John, yours was working partially correct. You said about, well, I guess 60% of the time it works every time.
It's about probably closer to 50 if we're counting. I don't know. I have like 200 different tasks that I've tried to give to it. It mainly floods my inbox with a whole bunch of warnings that it can't work. But of the ones that do work, I've had it do anything from collect changes in, various tech specific questions, specific news on startups, AI, alarm clocks, like remind me that I need to be a better human, basic stuff. But it seems to work way better in the evenings than it does in the mornings. Just saying. I don't know if that's any indication of like issues with scalability, but that is one observation I have made. But I've also kicked the living shit out of it. So
Nobody has anything to do in the evenings.
Yeah, everyone's setting their reminders and tasks for the morning, so it's just bogging down the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably only like one thing that I'm happy that it actually is delivering, and there's an AI startup trends task that I got it to do, and it goes out and delivers like 10 different trends that it does in a series of analyses somehow, but all the others can't get more than like 3. So I don't know why that task is working so much better than the others. and the prompt is almost identical too. So
Interesting.
How
I got
complex are the prompts you guys are using? Anything, super crafty, or is it all just straightforward?
you can't use crafty.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh.
mine have been super simple. I got excited because I did get one of those kickback emails, and I was like, "Oh, it can email." So I asked it to write somebody an email, and then I got a notification. I thought it emailed. I thought it worked. So I was like, John, it can send emails. And then I was like, oh, never mind. It didn't work. And it was just a notification telling me it didn't work. So
It doesn't seem to be very well received across the board. But in all fairness, it's a hard announcement to make on the back of announcing O3 and their more
Sure.
major
Mhm.
breakthroughs. It seems like tasks might have been better suited for one of their 12 days of Christmas rollouts. But I saw a funny tweet.
From an infrastructure load, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe that's
right.
why they separated it.
Yeah, that's
But,
a good point.
I mean, you gotta hand it, they ship, they get stuff out,
But
like,
Yeah.
good or bad.
so I would actually firmly disagree with that. I
Which
think
part?
tasks are far more significant than O3.
Oh,
Mhm.
well, there's an interesting hot take. Let's hear it. Why?
Well, I mean, one, O3 is being used by how many people? Like next to none, and you have to apply for it. And even then, it's $1,000 per run. If we're talking about utility and actual impact, we're talking about the ability for me not to do things, which is far more valuable to me than just being like, hey, can you go like give me wisdom on this topic, which I still would say we're not exactly sure of like how good that is or where that really can be applied. It's going to be interesting to see how that works and what that really looks like. But if you were asking me to spend $1,000 per prompt, and I saw that.
My lights out back there.
Randy's got a
It's a-
clicker.
Just f***ing with me.
No, it's
Um,
O3. It's here, actually.
yeah, it lists
Yeah.
heard you.
Like,
Well, speaking of shipping, though, Sam Altman put on X like an hour ago that they are getting ready to ship it in a few weeks.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna
we'll see
ask,
very soon.
is O3 currently available just on Pro, or is it not?
Just to researchers to try to
You had to
test it for
apply,
security.
and if they accepted you, then you can use O3.
Well, then of course
I'd
more
imagine
people are
some of their
using
corporate
tasks
clients
than
have.
O3. Nobody has
I
O3
bet there's
yet.
some early access that's happening that when they launch it, they'll share like stories like they did with like Morgan Stanley and the likes when they did, GPT-4. But it's coming in a matter of weeks. I think that we'll at least start to see it.
I mean, this is the thing. If we're talking about like O3 and its ability to solve problems, and you have a problem and you need it solved, then it might be a really good option. If you can get like for $1,000, if I can prompt it, build me an application that can go out, scrub the internet for all recent topics, and give me the news and blah 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 blah, and it works on a desktop, and I can run it each morning off of my GPU, and it does it and it works. Then you know what? That $1,000 prompt was totally worth it. But if it can't do that or like action it, I'm very curious to see like how the value statement of like what that capability or problem solving is, especially compared to something is small and not very costly is this. If you take this and you extrapolate it out, 3 months, we'll be hooking it into other systems or external access. And in 6 months, it'll be able to take action on far more things, especially as these get more complex. That to me, like from a value statement perspective and what you're going to pay for it is far more impactful than something that is limited access and costs $1,000 to use per use.
Yeah, and
I
it's
just
a
want to know if
step
they have
towards
a.
the. Oh, go ahead, James.
Oh, I just want to know if they have a refund policy.
If it doesn't finish the or like it doesn't give you a good result.
Yeah, you present a well structured, logical, like pragmatic problem for it to solve, and it doesn't solve it.
You're talking about O3?
Yeah, I'm talking
Yeah.
about $1,000 a prompt. It's a significant cost if it doesn't deliver.
Well, let's talk. I mean, James, you bring up a good point because this is similar relevancy to like O1 and O1 Mini, right? When 4.0 first came out, and then the price reduction into 4.0, then 4.0 Mini, and now further price reductions, and now there's rumor that even 4.0 has gotten even smaller, right, in the parameters and what it's currently doing. Yet they're getting into more MOE or agentic like structures in order to have better fidelity. If we think about what they're doing with O3 and we apply that same thought structure, like how long is it? What is the percentage reduction for like over the last year for 4 to 4.0? It's
100x,
hundreds of
100x
percentages.
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Massive.
Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah, it's a lot.
does that turn into O3 being $100 or $300 per use, and then in another year it turns into $30, and then right? So like I where does that stop? But I don't know. I mean, if it can solve really difficult problems, then $30 might be worth it for a prompt.
It stops at the price elasticity curve, where that curve starts to bend. That's where it
Well,
stops.
I think our commentary last week is extremely relevant. When you have a supercomputer sitting on your desk and it costs you nothing but the power to run, and you can have that AI structure, agentic structure, solving problems for you autonomously 24/7 a day, like how relevant is $30 a prompt or even $300 a prompt? It becomes like less relevant. It's more about time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
And what would the
And then
cost, the associated cost be to, hire out the human level of that same work, right? And in most
Right.
cases, even at $1,000 a prompt, if it's reliably solving big problems, that's going to be much cheaper than hiring an equivalent level of intelligence to go after that same problem.
I want to see it.
Yeah.
I want to
Mhm.
see them pick a thing and show me that it solves something significantly difficult enough that the level of subject matter expertise would be more than like, how long does $1,000 get you? Is that a single prompt and it responds? Is that, it works for an hour and it comes back? Like there's lawyers that cost less than $1,000 an hour, and my opinion of those folks. But if James tweet, I saw that. Like, oh God. But like, if we think about the ability to take action, and let's just talk about code for a second, because I think that's the easiest applicability of autonomous agents that currently are out there, like widely used. Klein or Cursor or Devin, or pick your term. Those are doing the work of full stack dev teams in hours, which would take weeks, which is just insane, and would have been ludicrous to talk about 3 years ago. So if a single model can solve problems that bridge, like the Randy, we were talking about that 80% to 20% like coding conversation. It's like that last 20% that like the AI really needs help. Like if O3 is the bridge to solving those type of problems, and you got to prompt it once and your application's working, like, oh,
Right.
okay. Like, cool. What is that worth to you though?
That's the thing. A lot of people I've seen, who have been not impressed with O1 or just not using it right. And I'm sure that like when the cost is $1,000 or whatever, you're gonna have to be more deliberate. It's also though, I wonder what kind of tools and like, when you're working with traditional AI model, you're training it, you can kind of tell after the first few iterations if you're kind of going to converge or if you're spiraling out, and you can stop your training run, right? And there's a bunch of techniques you can do upfront to know that you're probably going to result in a good trained model, because these things can take days or weeks to train, and so there are techniques to see before I get a model running that I know it's going to probably result in success, right? So I'm wondering if there's a similar mechanism or approach where if you're spinning up this model at inference time, there's something else that is ahead of it that can like see if there's patterns or things that it's likely to converge on an answer.
So you bring up a really good point, because I'm going to talk about O1 for a second. And I think James and you have both seen me do this recently. Meta prompting in O1 is like super powerful, but it's not how you prompt 4.0. It's very much structural. Like, I need you to create a thing, and the thing needs to look like this on output. And if you do it right, it's really powerful.
Yeah, and that's
my
where
prompt
like
style.
that's where
Yeah.
a lot of these auto coders, like the good ones, or when we're working with them, right, we're using O1 to come up with a plan, and we're getting structured about what we need that plan to look like, because we know that the Claude 3.5 or the 4.0 that's picking it up and writing the code needs that guidance. And so in O3, to your point, like at the beginning of that process, like epic feature user story, O3 gives you the epic, O1 gives you the feature, and then you build the user stories out with the other ones. I mean, that could be insane.
So
I mean, we've got data and documentation on the regular increase in overall intelligence, right? So it kind of seems like these models are being deployed against, scientific research, academics, things like that, and then will eventually prove and be moved down into more, human applications to be used. So to me, it's just a matter of time before these things do, what we want them to. But I'm curious if O3 will have like a, make sure you've got this prompt right before you publish, because at $1,000 a prompt, you have a typo in there. That's an expensive mistake.
And it's also possible that
no, that just makes me laugh, James. All I can think back is like FSISAC and the realization of like what a hallucination was versus like just poor prompting in that discussion. Can you imagine $1,000 like poor prompt?
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like we need to have a board meeting before we would prompt that thing. Like,
so another possibility though, Sam, is like, and this has happened before. I'm not saying it will happen, but there are models that sometimes come out swinging that look really impressive, that once people get them, they do dumb things like they were trained on test, right? Like there's this guy, I forget, he had this whole big thing where he was like, my model is open source and it beat everyone. And like, AI Twitter was all a buzz for like a week. And then someone's like, wait a minute, his evaluation set, the things that you use to see if your model is good, is in the training set. And every model is going to be 100% on those. So it's possible, like in the story of AI in 2025, like there will be things like that, like, oh, actually O3 is just overfit on this like AGI test because they're raising money, or there's some turnover. Like that's also like in the realm of possibility. It doesn't negate those super trends we talked about in previous episodes about more processing, like just the existing generation of models on 100 or 1,000x more powerful processing could be all you need. But if both things are getting better at the same time, it's just it may not be O3, it could be some other model, but it's going to happen.
I guess we also don't know what's behind the curtains. I've seen plenty of buzz around X recently, people talking about the cards that OpenAI are keeping close to the chest, and that they may have significant breakthroughs recently in AGI. So it's hard to say. They've recently switched to a for-profit company. Of course, they've got to uphold the interests of everyone involved there, and also be a company and generate revenue. So there's a lot of conflictions there when we're dealing with a transformative technology like AI that's set to reshape the history of humans.
Remember our discussion on whether it's AGI or not?
Yep.
Did you see the post on the formal agreement between Microsoft and OpenAI on what determines AGI?
no.
Is there a recent thing?
Oh, somebody please Perplexity that. I want to see your faces as you discover what that is. Like, I'll give it a couple seconds, but when I read it, I was absolutely floored because it is not anything we talked about.
Well, let's for anybody who's not aware of the deal, right? This is a contingency on Microsoft's investment in OpenAI, or that's when the deal breaks, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like there's a certain parameter specifically that was set by OpenAI and Microsoft as part of the investment. And if OpenAI could prove AGI, then they could break that agreement. Now, the key is here that Microsoft and OpenAI had to come to an agreement of what that determination was. That we did not hit this topic.
So this is interesting. So
it's 100 billion.
Financial benchmark. AGI is defined as an AI system capable of generating at least 100 billion in annual profits.
Please tell me how that is related to AGI. I know that.
I
know that you
TikTok
can make
is AGI.
an assumption, but like to me, that's a technology definition or an investment definition, not any way, shape, or form related to the ability of reasoning, learning, adaptability, all the rhetoric that AGI
it's not disputable, right? So like I could see the legal argument being like we need a point, because after that, like
on its own,
the relationship changes.
So so contractual
profit is indisputable, right? AGI is like you're gonna ask a judge who's never thought about what AI means or how to spell it to define that.
Wait a second. So you're gonna tell me if they just ran with 4.0 and they made it so usable from an agentic system perspective that they could generate that level of profit, they get to determine its AGI?
Or I have the
No,
answer.
but if I was their
Yep.
lawyer, I would recommend they do that.
Well, I mean, that's what he threatened, right?
So
Right.
Like, not
I
exactly that, but
might have the answer here. There's a contractual implication that achieving AGI benchmark would allow OpenAI to terminate their agreements with Microsoft.
Right.
Yeah,
bingo.
correct.
There you go.
So it's all about money, right? You have to have a way that a court with no expertise in this topic can uphold the inevitable lawsuit when Microsoft loses access to, let's say it's a $1 trillion business and they lose access at $100 billion. It's gonna be a terrible deal that they sign. They'll probably sue. So like if the contract is based on money, then it's a very kind of black and white thing. Versus AGI, they could say, well, it's this benchmark or that benchmark, or I feel like that's just
So this is like
it's not surprising.
so like ethics, AI ethics, right? Like what's driving us to build AGI now? It's freaking money,
Money, money,
right?
Not just
profitability.
driving Microsoft and OpenAI, but I think that
Yeah.
like others.
Let's build
The
something.
leaders, right? They're the
Well,
leaders in this.
So this is like that interesting debate of like, well, AGI, super intelligence, consciousness, right? And then if we get to a benchmark or a point where something is able to determine autonomously how it thinks, acts, believes, motivates, and takes action, like at what point do the naysayers that like don't believe that consciousness can be determined by data, let's call it what it is, that okay, maybe we are data from a consciousness perspective, and if we're being real and going into neural networks and how they function and the data that flows in them, the brain is one of the most powerful computational things that has ever existed. Like,
Crazy efficient too.
Oh, it's insanely efficient, which is it's wild and why it's so hard to decode. But one of the most interesting articles I read this week was there's a new researcher that is working on like the whole side of like quantum physics and ended up in like some level of the brain and believes that the brain is actually using a level of quantum mechanics in order to do what it does. And I'm like, well, that's a mind-bending topic in and of its
So
own,
it's
because
about
I know
psychics,
so
right?
much
Like,
about quantum physics.
We've covered this in the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We've been down this road before, but
Well,
like,
speaking of quantum, the top headline in Perplexity right now is Schrodinger's cat quantum breakthrough. I haven't read through the article yet, but
Did they get it out alive?
we don't know. We got to read it. Maybe you
I
dig in
love
while
that show, by the way. Have you guys
What?
seen that show?
Which show?
which
Oh my God, there's a show on Apple. I thought it's not dark. It's I'm gonna have to look it up. It's on Apple. It's about the entire like quantum Schrodinger cat and like the whole like. It is one of the best shows I've ever seen, and it will totally take your mind, turn it inside out, and then like bash it with a hammer, turn it inside out again. Like it's just going to like it will break everything you've thought about reality.
Is
I
it
thought
like
the third
a
season of Gossip Girl was like that too.
I haven't watched that one.
touche?
God.
Yeah, this headline says, based on reports from Nature Physics, researchers at the University of New South Wales have achieved a significant breakthrough in quantum computing by creating a Schrodinger's cat state inside a silicon chip, potentially solving a major problem in quantum error correction and computing reliability.
This reminds me, I have a friend who is very smart, and about twice a year he texts a bunch of us with like some news article about cold fusion. Like they finally had a breakthrough. It's finally here. This is going to revolutionize the world. And it's like,
For the last 10 years, he's been
Okay.
sending it.
No,
I
but-
mean, yeah, it's
I'm sorry, but there's a little bit of a difference between putting a live animal and putting it into a quantum state and putting an inanimate object inside of a silicon chip into a quantum. I'm sorry, but like, I don't follow that headline.
yeah.
Unless it's tied to the state of a live cat somewhere else in the universe, then that could be fascinating.
I mean, in an infinite multiverse, I guess it is.
Well, yeah, in this universe, it's inanimate.
Yes, exactly. Pending more data. We don't know
As
enough
long
just
as the
yet.
door is closed, it could be in all states at the same time. But as soon as you open it,
Well, maybe your ChatGPT tasks were just sent to another universe, and that's why they keep failing.
That's right. Yeah.
Some alternate
but
version
that-
of me. is
you
like,
know-
why do I keep getting emails?
God, I want
The,
to
the
quantum.
AGI question is interesting, right? Like, why AGI? Like, it is. It's all about money, right? Because the compute and the chip sales is what's going to drive the competition. That and the nation state need for domination.
To go back to that deal with OpenAI and Microsoft, they're saying that OpenAI generates a revenue of $100 billion,
No.
or AI
No.
on its own can create
The
autonomously?
AGI does it.
Yeah, the AGI does it. Yeah,
Mm.
Mhm.
So
But that-
what?
but-
do you have to
but again,
seed
like,
it with
the-
Well, let's just pause
but
here.
no-
Not even the AGI does it. So OpenAI invested, like they have an investment of ridiculous amount of money, and they currently have had a total investment of a ridiculous amount of money. And now we're saying that the thing that they create has to generate how much money?
200 billion or 100.
I
Or,
think it's 100 billion.
100 billion profit.
100
billion
billion profit.
Profit.
So,
Yeah.
how many companies in the world have ever generated $100 billion in profit?
Let's find out.
happens all the time.
100 billion is a lot.
Oh,
a lot.
really? I
lot of
thought
money.
I thought billions were smaller than.
They're getting smaller.
Oh my God! If every single AGI gets to generate 100 billion, then how many AGIs are really going to be sustainable?
Well, Perplexity says as of
And
January
next
2025, only Saudi Aramco has surpassed 100 billion in annual profit globally. Annual profit. So
No. Well, maybe Google search is wrong. I'm asking the wrong engine.
I feel like a few companies have done it. A few companies
Yeah,
have done
it's-
it, but I will also say that it makes perfect sense that a gasoline company has done it. Just saying,
Yep.
oil
Yeah.
company.
out of
Right.
Saudi Arabia.
The thing that
That's
the world's
an
powering
investment,
on.
Holdco, really. There's
Well-
like a lot of things in there.
I mean, that is insane to think about. That like two companies, big company, like OpenAI's, they're big now, right? But at the time of creating this agreement, Microsoft is huge, and they decided that in order to determine AGI, $100 billion of profit. That is wild to me.
Great deal for Microsoft.
Yeah.
I mean,
OpenAI's board retains the authority to determine when AGI has been achieved.
Which
they do.
board?
Yeah.
The nonprofit board or the for-profit board?
Did they keep their nonprofit organization? Is
Take
that
a wild
Actually,
guess.
is that done? This is like a bunch of non-lawyers talk about a bunch of
yeah,
things
right?
that
Legal
You know
structures.
what? We talked to a lawyer today who would be fun to talk about this stuff. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
We should, yes, we should get
Yeah.
a podcast with that.
I feel like her opinions would be stellar. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we need to get her on the podcast. That
Bring
would
her
be-
on.
Not to go into too much detail, but I did say if I plan on recreating an AI lawyer to replace you, are you okay with that?
What'd she say?
Oh, hell yeah.
Absolutely, and I think you should.
good.
That's the right answer.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen a
Best
bunch of
one to
that.
date.
I will drink to that.
Yeah, right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, for real. Yeah, I did. Yeah, we segued through a couple. I don't know, James. I feel like I was overly direct questions at this point because I'm just sick of dealing with lawyers. But I just went down the road of, hey, do you realize what we're creating is like massively disruptive? And like, are you okay with that? Do you understand it? And she's like, okay, yeah, I do. And we ended up down the route of like, we've already had issues with lawyers because they don't like being challenged by AI when they're wrong. But the reality is people are wrong, and we're going to challenge you with AI. Like, are you okay with that?
See, those are the things that AI is taking head on, where it's, something like law that is clearly defined in, paperwork and rules
I don't
and
know about the
policy
word
across.
clearly. I think you mean
Well,
decently.
I think it is clearly
Technically.
defined. I think people exploit the loopholes that are layered in
Well, then
between
it's
all
not
those.
clear.
There is there's a clear data source to query.
That's
But
right.
then-
Yeah.
James, what was the text message I sent you earlier? What was that image? What does it say?
Which one? You
No,
send me
the
a lot
most
of
recent. Oh,
the Goldman Sachs AI can now draft 95% of an S1 IPO prospectus
I
in
saw that.
minutes.
Yep.
Mm.
Job used to take a 6-person team multiple weeks.
Yep.
Wow. Well, to back,
95% in minutes.
and we've seen that with, what do you call them? The people that work in a law office that are just doing all the admin stuff. They have a name.
Paralegals.
Yeah, there you go. So there was a story that came out like last year sometime where the AI had done the work of what would cost a paralegal $8,000, or, to have the equivalent amount done, and it did it in 5 minutes. And right here in Perplexity, this is one of the breaking news items this week, was that large language models surpass experts in neuroscience predictions. So they did a study in Nature Human Behavior and revealed that large language models outperform neuroscience experts in predicting study outcomes, achieving 81% versus 63% for humans. So,
But this goes back to what James said last podcast. Language is the fabric of our reality.
Mhm.
Like, you can't tell me. So this, and it also is the same discussion. I think the same podcast. I can't even remember. Like, how does a large language model understand fluid dynamics? It doesn't. It was not trained to understand fluid dynamics, but it learns enough about how to communicate how fluid dynamics should operate. So, like, we're getting
Well,
into. Go ahead,
it's-
James.
Oh, I was just gonna say, how do we know what fluid dynamics
Exactly.
is?
We have to
Right? Like
communicate it.
we have to
How do you
communicate it.
explain
Like
it? How do I explain it to you?
Right. Exactly. How do you translate? Right. And then there's different levels of vocabulary, different levels of education, different levels of language.
Well, if we're being
we
very
should do
literal,
a,
there's code and there's language, and right now it's killing code.
Well, and it's not just, and then this is where I think this conversation's all over the place, but this is where I think AI is, or AGI is, right? Because language is not just text, it's not just data, right? There's nonverbal communication. There's
I was hoping you would go here.
smoke signals, right? Like there's all different types of communication that we have to use to operate and to function in a society.
What are you saying?
So you're saying that AGI
like,
has to have a clear understanding of all types of communication and language to be
Must be
considered AGI.
modal.
I mean,
well,
if
you can't. So what happens if you put a bunch of hostile entrepreneurial individuals together, or financial individuals together, and you don't put them on camera and you let them go at it? I could tell you exactly what happens because I've lived it. That shit ramps up quick, and it goes hot and heavy, way hotter and heavy than if they're on camera. And the number one reason is there is a very big difference in, like, fuck you, Sam,
Hey, jeez.
and fuck you, Sam.
Yeah, tonation,
No, it's tonation, it's body language, it's movement. It's like we communicate visually almost as much as we communicate verbally. And LLMs are missing a huge component, which is absolutely amazing and hilarious at the same time, because, in one of my demos this week, I used the live API just because I wanted to show off, like, the whole aspect of, like, what ChatGPT can do, because I have to appreciate the live API. It's an amazing creation by OpenAI, and they had never heard of it, never seen it. This is a company, a global company. Nobody in the company has ever heard of it. So I literally just open ChatGPT, I point at the table, and I say, how many people are at the table? And it goes, there are 3 people at the table. It looks like you guys are in some sort of business meeting. And I said, well, I'm at the table. And it goes, you are correct. There are 4 people at the table. And I said, see that sign behind the table? What does that say? I don't know. It's a little bit of blurry, but it looks like it's, insert company name. And everybody at the table's like, oh, that's interesting. And I just stand up, walk over, and I said, can you please explain what this is? And it looks like a banner for a company, and they're trying to pitch that they do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, cool. Now take this and create a pitch for this company in a 30-second commercial. Go. And it did it. And then very quickly, I went, all right, great. My new target market is millennials. I need it to sound millennial go. And it totally changed the entire way that it sounded instantly. And everybody at the table was like, that's we pay a lot of money for marketing to do that. And the reality is, like, Randy, you hit the nail on the head. I think, like, last podcast also, there is a huge amount of people that have no clue that things that we have used every day or use every day, like that exact example, when I first was talking about it, I just told them that I had set up a pod with another iPhone, and I had it sitting over my shoulder watching me code. And they were like, what do you mean watching you code? I'm like, oh no, like literally watching me code and like talking to it while I code. And they're like, it can see what you do. I'm like, oh, you don't know what I'm talking about. And I'm like, it's mind blowing. But at the same time, in that same, we demoed a solution for them that is very similar on the lines of like creating documents that are technical development documents. I had none of their data. I had none of their information, nothing at all. And all I did was ask my agent that sits in one of our solutions to deliver the thing that they had asked for live. And they were like, wait a second. So you're saying like the 170 people that write technical documents could like be 20 people? And it's like, yeah, like I'm not saying it because I don't know the math and I'm not sure, but like very, very quickly, in whole industries are going to have that realization. And Randy, you're spot on. There's way more people that don't see it than do.
Yeah. It was funny, actually. I noticed, before I was in Enable, I was working in consulting, and we saw a clear trend of an uptick in clients that were just hiring really seasoned consultants, like people who are like experts in their craft and doing 30 years in different kinds of technical things. And they were very interested in just hiring people to write documentation. Because I think a lot of these companies recognized we got to get the technical documentation in line because the AI will be coming soon to read it, and then we can get rid of everybody.
That's
And
interesting.
it was a very interesting trend that like seemed to be correlated with like 6 months after ChatGPT came out.
North America leads AI adoption with 40% adoption rate.
Oh,
By companies and organizations.
That's companies.
Companies.
I mean, I was curious
So-
about this because I was
So wait,
recently
you're saying
speaking.
there's an opportunity market?
Sure.
I would challenge that 40% as probably too high.
I feel like
I
that's
agree.
too
Well,
high.
I think that's companies, right? Not individuals. I was speaking with a professor recently, and they had never even heard of ChatGPT.
That blows my mind. I can't wrap my mind around
can't
how a
either.
professor has not heard of
Aren't you
ChatGPT.
married to a professor?
I am.
He's for sure heard of
Wasn't her.
ChatGPT.
I was about to say, oh wait.
Yeah, no, it's
So
so it's
she's
funny
well
because
aware.
a lot of AI is machine learning, or is one thing with AI where there's a lot of other stuff. But depending on how you measure it, I think that the true penetration hasn't hit. But as soon as things like
Yep.
tasks, things like reliable agents, things like coding that gets you more than it's already happening with like whole companies doing hiring freezes of junior developers, right? Was it Salesforce or they're
Salesforce,
not
yeah.
gonna invest in the same kind of intake of people, and they're gonna let it decrease or do more layoffs. Meta just did another 5% riff after like a 25% last year. Like this is happening.
Everything, yeah. Well, so let's go around this will be fun. Let's go around the room. I want to start with Sam. So, right, like, serious question for each of this group. If you were going to give a company like 3 to 5 bullet points of what they should be doing now in order to prepare for what's coming, what should they do?
3 to
And,
5
like,
bullet points.
I know,
Good.
Sam, this will be fun because you guys couldn't be more of a diverse perspective. Like, just to go around the room, like, we have Sam, very media and marketing focus. We have James, very data analytics and like all things, well, I would say now AI focused. And we have Randy, very AI focused, but very consulting background and very like driving result oriented, like tactical view. So the very, very different perspective. So I'd like to hear, Sam, like 3 to 5 items that a company should do right now to prepare for
Yeah.
what's coming.
Well, I mean, to preface that a little bit with a little bit of my beliefs on this topic, I think big picture, and by big picture, I mean within the next 5 years, let's call it. AI kind of breaks everything. That's my belief. I think that AI is going to require a massive reform of the systems that we've all grown used to and are, familiar with. But in the short term, I think, and see, this is why these are good, diverse perspectives, because I see James already shaking his head at what I'm saying. But
I already know why James is shaking his head.
yeah, well, I want to hear
this is
this
gonna
too.
be so fun. I'm
Yeah,
so
I mean,
excited.
From personal experience, I've gone and talked to business owners that I know that are friends of mine, and there's zero awareness. So my number one is just start learning AI, and then start to integrate it, because AI will be and already is an investable asset in a company. It will be a requirement. If your company is not AI ready, investors, VCs, they're not going to want to look at your company, because it's the future of how business will be handled. I saw today Reid Hoffman, the CEO of LinkedIn, was posting on this interview talking about how, everybody talks about job displacement and it's this big thing with AI. And he's like, I don't see it happening that way. I see, if a sales team can be reinforced with AI to do 4x the efficiency and productivity, then we're still going to want those people just, integrated with AI. But I'm like, that still breaks, because now you have one guy doing the work of 4 people, and you don't need the guys that don't understand AI to be a part of the business anymore, because they are low performers. So in this same scenario, you now have 25 people doing the work of 100 people in the past. So I don't know if I have 3 to 5 things, but learning it, learning it and then integrating it across their processes. I don't know if I have more than that. I'm trying to think. Like, you guys,
I mean, those are kind of broad. How about you make it more specific to marketing from your viewpoint?
Well, I also believe that I'm kind of just training myself out of a job at a certain point. Like, I believe that AI will handle.
Spot on.
It's happening. Like, you guys won't need me at a certain point. I don't know if we'll need all of us at a certain point, but
actually, this is interesting, because James hit this on the head on one of our calls earlier. He was like, I don't know how much we will be working in the near future, but the work we do will be different.
That's a good point. It'd be more guiding than it would be physically, working.
It's not just guiding, but it is the, like, imagine if there are 25 Sams working 24/7. When is the real Sam need to provide his input?
Or does the real Sam need to provide his input? That's where
we're not there yet. We're
not yet.
there
I agree.
Yet. Yeah, and I don't think we will be for, I don't know, maybe 2 to 3 years. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
Because there is so much nuance that has not been even close to worked out. Like, this is my view of the world today, that there is a lot of things that 90% to 95% of the solution can absolutely be delivered through data ingestion and automation and, like, all these great things that are, like, coming.
Yeah.
But that last 5% is going to be the most difficult. It's going to take the longest amount of time, and it's going to take the most detail, nuance, subject matter expertise with, like, the individuals that have lived it day to day for 20 years to totally, James, I totally go back to, like, Cobalt and a lot of the infrastructure of, like, banks. Like, those dudes are making prime money. And they're not relevant with, like, AI anymore. But, like,
they're relevant to banks.
But how long did those dudes make stupid money? Because they were the knowledge base for that thing. So if you take, like, the guy who can sell, the guy who can market, the guy who can create, drive value, across anything, but that dude is the person.
I think the asset will become, there's this shift from specialists to generalists that's talked about a lot, where in the past it required an expert level of knowledge to complete specific job roles or specific tasks. And we're shifting away from that expertise needing to be a necessity for one individual and coming into this more generalist atmosphere where somebody that has good experience across multiple domains and has, a decent intellect to be able to think through these problems creatively, abstractly, and then guide the AI through that, I think will be more prioritized than, somebody that's been a financial analyst their whole life.
You just crushed it.
Yeah.
James, what did you message me not like 30 minutes ago on Teams?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, like that's the business of the future, right? Like it's I see businesses expanding laterally, right? Like if you're in a silo, we're getting access to technology that's like we're saying, like our specific tasks are going to be, they're going to become pretty automated. So what are you going to do? Well, what else could we be doing?
Play
Right.
Star Citizen.
Innovating.
I love it. But Sam, you hit the nail on the head though.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even joking. James messaged me this before we even started this podcast.
Mhm.
Like, I want you to actually say what you said, because this
Let me pull it
is
up.
the future of the companies. This is how companies will operate, because Sam just hit the nail on the head. It doesn't matter what your subject matter expertise is. It matters what you can do with cognitive surplus if appropriately applied.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a
So
great point.
so my opinion, and by the way, I didn't disagree with anything you said, Sam.
No. It was just a visual thought process in the
I
form of
I was
horizontal
thinking
head
about
shaking.
I was thinking about something in my head, and I was playing around with my own thoughts. Sorry.
I was playing mental ping pong.
I was playing mental.
James had some cognitive
Exactly.
surplus to.
Yeah. Well, this is a fun topic. Like, look, what should businesses be doing?
No. You skipped the question.
Well, that
I
was
do
the
want you
question.
to answer that, but I want you to answer directly to what Sam just said, because you and him said the same thing, just in different words.
Generalist
Yeah,
versus specialist.
Oh yeah, I can't remember exactly what I said. I've got
It's
too
in
many
Teams.
things. Oh, it's in Teams. All right.
I can read it if you want. So James messaged me right before this podcast, and he said, "Thinking through crazy ideas." Everyone's title.
Oh.
Go ahead. You want to finish?
Yeah. No. So okay. So yeah. I wasn't connecting the dots. So yeah. So okay. What I was talking about was I want to get rid of titles. I want to get rid of siloed responsibilities within organizations, because I think we can distribute responsibility and accountability laterally through the entire company.
But
And
how?
oh, well,
Cognitive surplus.
big surprise, AI, right? Like that. Like, I think we have the opportunity to augment these things. Like for a person to be able to do that, oh my gosh, that's so much work, so much cognitive processing, right? Like this is where AI can really step in and help out. Is like if I need to make a decision and I need to think like a CEO, I need to think like a COO, I need to think like a CFO, I need to think like a risk, legal, blah blah blah, right? You name it, right? We have to separate those responsibilities, and people have to become experts in those areas today. Well, we are getting into a realm where we have access to these experts at our fingertips, and we're going to be able to build systems that can augment each person in a company to be able to reliably hold that decision and be responsible for that decision.
Wait, so you think in the future you could talk to a John Petty bot?
I think you could talk to an entire company bot.
You know what company's already done this? Ditched all of their titles. A company we're all familiar with is 11 Labs. They did exactly that. They ditched all of their C-suite and above and below that. No more titles. They're all just working together to grow their company, infused and augmented by AI. It's a cool concept.
I was thinking about this, and I was like, do we actually operate that way? Like so many things that everyone here on the call does every day is outside the scope of our title.
True.
right? I mean, that partially is, that's startup life.
Startup
But
life, yeah.
but how are we doing it, right? How are we doing it, and how are we doing it well? That's where I'm starting to see, like, wow, well, what if you actually spent time designing and building that structure and that technology to support that sort of operation?
James, I think our kids will work that way. I'm gonna take the under on this.
Oh,
schedule to
I'm
get
not
there.
saying it's
Um,
today. I'm not saying it's
but
today. I'm dreaming right now, but like soon.
I'm gonna say that I think it's sooner than Randy believes.
I would
so
agree with
I
that.
will say that
my recommendation to
Randy,
businesses.
you are really pragmatic, and I love it.
Mhm.
And honestly, James is actually really pragmatic. So this is super entertaining for me to see two different opposing pragmatic views, because typically James is the one telling me to shut the up. But
no,
like,
so I think that like
for him
companies,
to think that way and you not to, that's awesome.
well, for the at least next couple of years, right? Like companies usually plan on a 3 or 5 year time horizon, right? And after that, yeah, maybe. But like advice to a company right now, you still have to compete
You
in the
don't have
market
3
you're in.
years.
What's that?
No company has 3
Well,
years. No company.
see,
No
see,
company.
we'll see.
I will die on this debate with you. No company has 3 years.
I
So
might side with Randy on this one.
yeah, I think the issue is that the tech, like I've said, you quoted me and I was quoting somebody else, but the innovations here, it doesn't mean it's going to be distributed throughout the business. And look, the economy is big, right? And a lot of it is driven on things like brand and trust, and like it's why marketing is such a important thing, right? When people choose to buy a product or service, the AI capability, I love it. See, this is why marketing matters. The decision to purchase something
Oh
is based on
God.
more than just the technical capability or even the cost, right? So for companies to change and for society to change, I think there has to be a fundamental, like, you know, commodification. Like we've got to see companies emerge that operate in this new way, that are cheaper to run and have better outcomes, and then the market will adapt. And I
But
think it's going to take some time to sort out.
but we're gonna lose 92 million jobs next year, and
Yeah, but they're
that
gonna
isn't
be
happening.
I didn't
replaced
say
with
No, they're
more
I,
jobs,
not.
though.
Oh
They will
no,
be
they're
replaced
not.
with more
No.
jobs. Yeah, they
Oh,
will.
they will be replaced in what time frame?
eventually, yeah.
No,
That's
Like
5 years. 5 years. 132 million jobs created. 92 million jobs lost this year. 5 years to create a plus to that.
I want the answer to this question, because I cannot envision, if AI is doing the work, or at least supplementing the efficiency, or compounding the efficiency of one individual up to 4 or 5x, how does it then create more jobs? Because what I see happening is just AI being
The
managed
jobs
by
are
a
new.
human
These are
element.
jobs. These are jobs that haven't existed.
What,
They
like,
are like,
what's an example
well,
of
I mean,
one AI job that could be
James
created?
brought it up actually last podcast, and it was spot on. Like, we have created completely new ways to work, and whether, like, no matter what, the way we operate is different from how normal people operate currently day to day. And in that difference, we have created a value statement in, like, you know, I'll ask the collective on the call. Like, right now, if you were going to say how many people I deliver product wise on a weekly basis, like, Sam, how much stuff do you think I personally get done on
Like, the
a,
work that you do would be
me personally, what
with
you see
AI.
of me do, how many people do you think I operate at?
I mean, you're the perfect example of somebody that's completely augmented all of their processes with AI. So at least 4x what, honestly, go back 10 years to somebody that at your same position that has no AI. Like, you're simultaneously writing new code with AI. You're pushing all of these updates with AI. You go and create apps with AI that would have taken teams of developers in the past. Like, we're already seeing that compound effect. I don't know what you would say as the answer for yourself, but it's certainly not the work of one individual without AI. Your
I would take
productivity,
1.5 today.
which
Like,
is
because the
scaled
value statement on the other
exponentially, though,
side,
and where does that
it
put
doesn't
us in?
matter. It's more than me. And
I agree
that's
with you.
all at the end of the day, to me, that's all that matters, is that I can use AI to make more valuable than me.
Yep.
I'm 1.5, I'm 2, I'm 2.5. It doesn't matter if it's 5x, it doesn't matter if it's 10x. At the end of the day, there's a methodology, a way of thinking that gets me to more valuable than me. And if I can do that once, I can do it over and over and over again. I can perfect that, and I can be a subject matter expert deep in that field that does it better than anyone else. And if that's a true statement, to James's point, there's a new learning curve and a new adaptability, like capability, that has not even been found in the marketplace yet. So
Yeah, but you also, and I'm going to bring something up because you also hammer the crap out of this 20 hours a day every single day for the last few months. No, like normal person's going to
No.
do that. So like the learning curve for most is a lot longer.
that's fair.
Like
That I will agree
just
with that. We've talked
just
about
being
that
honest.
before. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
but at the same time, the value statement is still there. It just may take
Yeah.
longer to get to that.
It is. Yeah, but there's
we're talking about like fundamental like history and economics, right? Like productivity happens, people get displaced, jobs get created. Eventually, there's a lot of societal turmoil in the interim, and like goods and products get cheaper, and everybody's quality of life goes up, even if the living conditions are different. Like there's a theoretical version of this of we know where this is headed. There's also again, like John is going to be a couple of years ahead of probably where the early adopters are. And it's just a question of how quickly does AI give us as a society the ability to move through that cycle faster, because it just gets so much better, which is possible. That's the 2-3 years hypothesis, is
But-
that this compounding capabilities
That's
will
a
get
really
us
good
there.
point.
But there's also the friction and inertia of society, right? And certainly, like we'll see, we were going to talk about the government stuff, but it's like it's useless to talk about it right now until the new administration comes in and starts to actually legislate. But right now, it's that's usually the biggest factor in terms of like, is there going to be a regulation that somehow slows this stuff down? Otherwise, we'll see.
in short, John, you're living in the future.
Well, but this is a good point, because it's somewhere in the mean, right? If we're being real,
Yeah.
like it's somewhere in the mean. Like there's the front of that curve that's like very, very ahead, which is a limited percentage. And just like the opposite end, there's a limited percentage that have no freaking clue what's going on. And somewhere in the mean, right, there is a group of people that are actually going to start to move that needle, so that the front end of the curve like starts to adapt. And it probably is going to take longer in some people's mind, the way that I think and the way that I operate day to day, versus like those that are still working to catch up. But I think, James, to get back to your 3, and I know we're running short on time, so I want to get through your 3 really quick. 3 to 5.
I just wanted to add to that.
Totally.
I like the conversation because we've all been trained to think in silos
Yeah,
in our jobs,
very true.
right?
Yeah.
In a lot of people's careers, everything has been think and focus in a silo. And I think the people that have the ability to think laterally and think outside of a silo and be able to take disparate concepts and bring them together, they're the ones right now getting the value and being able to really push the limits of what you can do with the current state of AI. That was my thought. So like Randy was talking about, society as a whole catching up, right? Like what's going to have to happen to do that, or do we start constructing AI in a way that, all right, doesn't matter, we'll do all the lateral thinking for you in the background, right? But I think there's still a judgment aspect here that matters. Anyway,
You just described it MOE.
yeah, maybe a little bit.
Well, but like from a cognitive standpoint, like what are agentic structures built to do? Diversity of thought.
Right, they're still limited by the input like trying to decipher what the user intent is, right? Anyway, but yeah, it's close.
It's interesting because that's one of the things that me and you've talked about like over years.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've
Even
been
outside
talking about
of
this
AI.
for a while.
Yeah. But like when we apply it to AI and we think about like, okay, well, this is a powerhouse of like how people think. And then we say, well, AI, if we take AI that have subject matter expertise in different fields, or new prompts, or maybe even like have been trained completely different, that it's maybe more powerful?
That's a crazy thought. So I think so. The question was, what do businesses need to be doing, right, to prepare and to adopt? First and foremost, it's data. You have got to know who your customer is, and your data has to reflect that very cleanly and clearly. Like, the biggest threshold to adoption is trust. If you're getting bad information, if you've got bad data, if you're not trusting the systems, it's going to be hard to get your employees to really
Everything fails.
adopt and use it. Everything fails. It's
Yeah.
all trust. And so, and then I would say it's not just the customer you need to focus on, it's also your internal processes, your internal employees, and understanding how your organization operates from a data perspective.
Are you saying that people don't know how their company operates?
We're trained to think in silos, right? Everyone just stay in your lane.
I think certain people know what their piece and part of the company is, but the right hand doesn't always talk to the left hand. And yeah, I mean, like, if you're getting data sanitization, getting your data structured, cleaned, and think about how AI ingests data, right? Large data. There's implications behind how you have to do that infrastructure, right? Get your house in order data wise, and that's what I would be focused on right now. And then it just becomes leveraging that data, right? What are you doing for marketing? How are you tailoring your messaging? How are customers receiving your product? How are they receiving your marketing info, right? What should you be doing to tailor your messaging around that, right? Now you can start to leverage the data that you've cleaned up. And then I guess the third thing would be internally, like your processes, right? How are you operating more efficiently? How are you augmenting your staff? How are you ensuring that you're delivering faster, higher quality, higher fidelity of communication, right? It's across the board. I mean, there's a lot to be said for efficient communication, right?
Are you saying that, like, if you had good data, you could potentially use AI to know where your pain points are?
Yeah, I
Wouldn't
mean,
need AI.
absolutely.
You could just use a dashboard,
true.
perhaps?
You could just use a dashboard to see that, right?
A report.
That,
Data is everything.
I think that, honestly, that's a really insanely important point here, because how many companies have any of us walked into that have good dashboarding?
Not
Like,
a lot.
like we're
few
not
and far
even talking about
between.
RPA. We're not talking about all these other, like, no. How many companies have you walked into that have enough dashboarding that, like, day one in your job, you're like, I know exactly how this company operates?
And so, and that's what I'm saying, like, the cleaner you can get your data, the more organized and centralized and classified, right? You can make your data tag.
Data democratization.
Well, it's context, right? Like, what do I need to be looking at? It's just like a person, right? If you don't have the full story, or you don't have the data points, and you're asked to cast a judgment on something or make a decision, and you're missing data, you're missing information, you're going to make a decision.
I had this text this morning from somebody who listens to our podcast, and she said this was the thing she started her day out with, was our podcast. It was super
That's
cool.
cool.
But
Nice.
her comment was, what do you mean when you say context? Because we have used it a lot, and apparently we have never explained when we say context as it relates to AI and LLMs and what context means. She was
You never
lost.
put context into
Well,
context. Whoops.
Yeah, I mean, man, the grass looks nice today, right? Well, am I on a golf course? Am I on a tennis court? Right? Like, where am I? Is it my yard that I care about? All right. The context is these lateral data points that help you triangulate what specifically we're talking about when I say, hey, the grass looks nice today. Right? Like, that has a different meaning to me than it would to a golfer if I just made that statement out of the blue. Right? So,
See, I think
I
I love golf.
Yard?
So
is
maybe
it golf? Is it totally different. Like
Yeah,
me
what
and you
was
were
my
just talking about this today.
was my
Time,
glass damp?
place, context.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But
Was-
at a
was-
certain point, AI will have all of that context. Everything distills to data,
it-
right? If
it-
language is the
it's
fabric
data.
of our reality,
Why, if you ask OpenAI what day it is, do they answer the same thing?
what do they say?
If it's that easy, then why haven't they done it?
I don't mean now. I just mean in the future.
I do. I
I
mean, I think
don't
it's easy.
know why they've done it.
I don't know. Me and James were
simple
debating
fix.
this today. It is that easy. Let's be honest. Like these are things that a browser can
Yeah.
pull right now. They know who, what, when, where, why, and like where you're coming from. But like Perplexity does a great job of this. In
I
the
just asked
Perplexity
ChatGPT.
prompt, they suck
You
in.
got it fine.
Yeah, no issues. Maybe the
It
thing
knew-
of the
it knows
past.
what day it is.
It's a
They might have
response one.
updated.
Today is Thursday, January. Oh, it missed it. It's not Thursday. So wait, here it gave me the A/B test on this one. It said today is Thursday, January 17th, or today is Friday, January 17th. Which response do you prefer? Obviously,
got
What?
wow.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that-
even worse. That's
Interesting.
terrible.
that's
yeah.
interesting.
So,
Tell it I-
like,
tell it
like,
I prefer the correct
that
one.
is context. It has no
That's the
context
one.
of here and now.
Yeah, like
What
if,
is here and now?
exactly. And there is we should well, like what's the term for this type of context? It's like context
Temporal?
that's well,
That's
temporal,
temporal.
but it's like context that is not directly related to what you're doing. But
Mm.
like if I'm like, hey, I want to know,
Nuanced?
yeah, well, it's kind of like lateral off the side, just like assumed context, right?
Yeah.
Like I assume if I'm talking about something today and I make a
But
statement,
ChatGPT assumes it's October 2023.
right, exactly. So if I'm not aware of that when I'm engaging with it and I do anything temporally, right? It's like I want to like simulate a forecast for me on sales if these factors were met, right? And then it's going to give you your little forecast, and it's going to start at October
Which
23rd,
you can't
2023.
use. That's
Right.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So
You
it
can't use it.
can't use it, and also it's going to take that data that it thinks from that context window, from that time window, and it's going to say, oh, well, because what
It's
happened back
hallucinating.
what happened back in that's not hallucination. It's the limitation of its training data. It's a cutoff of training data. It's all about data.
But at a
Guys,
certain
I hate
point,
to be a party
No,
pooper here.
I
but
don't know.
We gotta
Randy,
land this
you're
plane.
three. You're three. Consultant man. Tell us our three.
I gotta go. No, okay. So I do need to make this quick, but actually for me, I think that the number 1, 2, and 3 is all about people for businesses. First off, you have to know who your like data, but know who in your business is actually capable of making this transformation or even driving it. There's a professor at I think Penn, Ethan Mollick, who has a lot of great writing on AI. He calls them cyborgs, right? Basically the John Petty. If Huntington Bank had properly identified and aligned your interest in this transformative technology and had applied your creative genius towards their shareholder value, we'd be in a very different place right now. But it would have been the right strategic move for them to have made. And I think every company has people like us where they're playing with these tools, they're thinking about these things, and they want to do their job better. They want to make their company successful, but they may not be in the right position to enact that change. I think that the companies that can get out of their own way and empower those people to transform the business are the only ones that have a shot at staying competitive. I don't think you can, ramrod your way into it by forcing it. You can't really acquire your way into it. Like there's got to be, a culture shift. And so that starts with, identifying them, just basically seeing who in your company is doing this stuff with good data and empowering them. And then, basically leaning into the creative destruction, right? That's going to have to happen to be successful. So I don't know if that's 3 or it's all 1, but the point is that I think all this stuff falls down without the right people.
I think they were good.
yeah, I think that's a great
Those are
take.
great. Those are great
Yep.
ones, Randy.
We haven't heard John's yet, but Randy, if you need to drop, you're welcome to. I can kick you off the stage here and we can wrap everything up, but I want to hear John's.
No, Randy, those are freaking stellar. People is gonna
Yeah.
it goes down to like companies are sitting on opportunity and they don't even know how to identify it. And we see it, we've seen it in other organizations. We see it with people that are on LinkedIn and they're posting and the company doesn't even know they exist. and they're buried in some organization that does something completely irrelevant, and they are out prompting, out building the data scientists that have been at the organization for 30 years. And that's the new reality of data democratization and like information democratization that we live in, where like James hit the nail on the head, like, and Sam too, like we are living in a world where you don't have to be a subject matter expertise, but you can drive value at that level or higher because you know how to ask the right question.
And I love that the word, for this kind of AI is agents, and we're talking about high agency people. It's like such a beautiful, like,
ironic.
you need people with high agency who are going to build your agents.
That's funny.
Before you segue, my daughter is dying. She's been listening to our podcast and she wants to say hi.
She's here on camera.
She's been waiting and she's sitting right next to me, just like
Bring her in.
So like she would like to
For
just
asking,
we,
my
like,
son
close
doesn't
out.
ask; he just shows up.
That's fair.
Eddie will just walk in naked. He's like, "Hey, what's up?"
She is like so excited, loves the podcast, has been listening to it, and she listened to it on the car ride in today, and just wants to say hi.
Bring her in and have her introduce, because I've never even heard her name before. So let's meet her officially on the DNAi podcast.
Well, we can when we wrap this thing up and you're ready to close out, I'll put the headset on and let her introduce.
Okay, perfect.
And good side note, she uses AI to do her homework almost like every day, and then you could probably ask her a couple questions.
Sounds good.
Well, Randy's gone. Thank you, Randy, for all of your thoughtful contributions. You're a brain and an asset to enable. Your input is valued. We appreciate it.
Not to toot our own horns, but like we've intentionally brought people in with very diverse thinking intentionally.
Wait, you're saying
I just love that
diversity is important in AI?
It's important for
everything.
Any company. Yeah.
The people.
You know what? Next week we have to talk about like cognitive surplus.
Yeah.
Okay. Do it.
And Randy said in the private chat, future episode equals World Bank stuff plus interview kids. So there you go.
I love it.
Well, let's wrap it up. We're at an hour 17. Let's meet your daughter. Have her
she's gonna take the hot seat then. You know what?
Let's do it.
I'm gonna segue out and she's gonna take the hot seat. And you guys,
I've got to go pick up my kids from school here, so it's a good point to tie it all in.
Perfect. Claire. Welcome.
Claire. Now we have a name. We're about to get a face.
Hi.
Hello. How's it going?
Hey, Claire.
Good.
So you already know James, huh?
Yeah.
You've never met me. I'm Sam. It's nice to meet you. You're no longer John Petty. You were Claire.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite thing about AI?
I don't know.
When was the last time you used it?
5 minutes ago.
What'd you do?
Pretty much just asked my personal AI about like skincare and lip care routines.
That's cool. It's all data, right?
Did it give you good advice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did it tell you?
Yeah, what did it tell you?
Oh, there's a lot. It like told me how to make my own lip scrub, my own facial cleanser, a lot.
Oh, that's awesome.
What were you going to ask, James?
Oh, I was going to ask, your dad said that you were using it for school. What are you using it? How are you using it?
So I'm really bad at multiplying decimals and fractions.
Aren't we all? Except for James.
We are all bad. No,
James,
I'm terrible.
Human calculator.
So I just use my AI for that. And
you have your AI? Did you make a GPT?
Yeah, my dad did.
Okay. What's it called?
I named her Skylar.
Skylar?
You know, it is interesting, though, on the topic of education. John just put this in the chat earlier today. There was a recent study, 6 weeks of personalized AI tutoring gave students the same gains as 2 years of learning. And the big statement there is that AI will change education forever. I've got two little boys. They're 5 and 7. And I have this running bet with my wife that they will not attend middle school. So we've got 4 or 5 more years until middle school. And I think education options will be far and above what public schools have to offer. And there will be alternatives that make it viable to not send your kids to public school in the next few years.
So Claire, how many of your friends at school are also using AI?
A lot. Pretty much
A
my whole
lot?
grade.
Your whole grade? Really?
hmm
What's
For the same kind of things,
yeah.
helping with homework, helping with math, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we also use it for our class in Invention Land. It's where we make our own inventions with a group, and then we actually get to do a competition and sign up for the Invention Land, like the actual Invention Land competition.
Cool. So you're using AI to help come up with ideas and help plan and
Right now, we finished our logo and we have our idea. It's like a whole like water bottle thing. It's like a whole thing. And one of the boys was like, "I'm just gonna ask ChatGPT to use our like just do a logo." And I was like, "Oh, that's not a bad idea."
and it worked, right?
Yeah,
It works. Graphic designers beware. Now
Do
we
you
got
most-
how old are you, Claire?
12.
So we got 12-year-olds drumming up logos and designs with AI currently.
Yeah, do you mostly just use ChatGPT, or do you use any other AI in your school?
We mostly use ChatGPT. I mean, sometimes I'll be like I think it's Sketchwit or something like that, or
Sketchwit?
yeah, Sketchwit, and I'll just be like making photos and sending it to my friends constantly, and they're like, "Where do you get these from?"
That sounds fun.
And you have them all installed on your phone. You have ChatGPT. Does your dad pay for a subscription for you, or do you have to use the free model?
I don't know.
Not sure. We'll have to get answers from John on that one.
We'll figure it out.
Well, thanks
Well,
for coming on, Claire.
Yeah, no
yeah,
problem.
thank you so much.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up. We're at an hour 23. And so, Claire, you have a sign-off line you want to deliver? You want to get us out of here? She looks to John, probably standing right there, right?
Yeah, he's like,
That's it. That's all we need is the hype.
Right. That's good
That's
enough.
beautiful. All right, guys, thanks so much for listening. We'll see you on the next one. Stay tuned. Over now. Thanks, James.
ya.
Bye, Claire.
Yep. Bye.
"Bye."
See you guys.
Send prompts, not nudes. I just want to AI some shit.